Hi, this is Kim from Kim's Cottage Confections, and I'm coming to you this evening from the Baileyville Bake Shop as part of the Speaking of Fun series presented by the Connecticut Valley Education Foundation. I'm here tonight to talk about a simple way to decorate a very beautiful cake for spring. And I wanted to share some of our baking tips with you that we use in our shop to ensure that our cakes are always baked evenly, baked all the way through, and are evenly presented when a client comes to pick them up. So one of the things that we start with here is a basic cake batter, and we use a white, a chocolate, a red velvet, a lemon, we do marble, chocolate chip, funfetti, and we do have a basic formula that we use that we've used for years that is just a basic simple cake recipe that fits and works for any of the different cakes that we make. So I definitely advise you to find a great cake recipe that you love and you can translate it into any of the different cake ideas that I'm going to share with you this evening. So one of the things that we start with are the pans that we use, which are a straight-sided, I'm going to hold it up, a straight-sided pan. So if you notice, this pan, while well-loved and has baked a lot of cakes, if you can see that it's definitely well-worn, but it has a straight side on it. So it doesn't have a side that flares out. The side is actually straight. So when you bake your cake in this pan, it's going to have a level side. The other addition that we use is we bake our cakes on parchment paper. So that means that we take regular parchment paper that is sold in the grocery store, we cut it, trace the bottom of the pan onto the parchment paper, we cut it with a pair of scissors and actually put this right into the bottom of the pan. So as you're baking the cake, you're not spraying the pan with anything so the cake pulls away and shrinks. You're using this parchment paper as a barrier between the cake batter and the pan so that the cake does not stick to the pan. This is a wonderful way of keeping your pan clean. It really makes cleanup easy. And it also ensures a very even bake. So we do this for all of our cakes, whether it's a 6-inch cake or a 16-inch cake, parchment paper in the bottom. The other thing that we do here that I have found creates a perfect level cake is we bake at 335. A lot of the cake recipes that you'll find say to bake at 350, and what we find is that the cake lifts too fast and then tends to fall, so it creates kind of a big dome that could not bake right under that dome. So we bake at 335, which gives us just a nice little mound after baking that shows that the cake is done, nice and spongy, and the cake is done, but it's not this big mound that's going to have a hollow center once you cut off the top of this cake. So now we have two cakes. We bake layer cakes. So there's two cakes. These are 7-inch cakes, and you can see that they do have the smallest mound to them. So that's something that we're now going to cut away. So I do have a big cake saw that we're going to use to cut the top of this cake off. So now we're going to add the icing to our cake. And you can see it's a nice, simple, level cake. And I've made a small bowl of what we call crumb coat, which is the actual first batch of icing that's going to catch all of these crumbs. So any kind of crumb that is on the cake is going to be covered up by this icing. So I'm taking my angled spatula, just a little bit of icing right on there, and I'm just going to start gently applying buttercream all around the outside of the cake. And you can see it's not a lot of buttercream. We're just skim coating the cake just to give it a coat of buttercream. And we're putting the crumbs back into this bowl because this is the crumb coat layer. So we don't mind that there are actually crumbs on this cake. It doesn't matter. This is going to be the first layer of icing that's going to catch all the crumbs and give us the clean palette that we will apply a second layer of icing, and then we'll be able to decorate. So you can see it's not taking too long. It's a pretty simple process. We're just going around the cake. We're using a turntable that actually allows us to spin the cake so that we're not having to worry about spinning it on the table itself. The turntable spins it for us, so we're able to just keep working the icing all around the cake so that we have a nice, level, smooth surface for our first layer of icing. So So I've been decorating cakes since, gosh, I think like 1994 is when I first started taking classes and learning all about what it meant to be a cake decorator and how to decorate cakes. And cakes have changed so much in the years that I've been doing this. We used to do very fancy cakes with a lot of explicit detail and all very ornate, a lot of piping, a lot of flowers. And now cakes are so simple. Most of our clients now are looking for just a skim coat naked cake, or just a simple texture that we add fresh flowers or we add fruit. So cakes are always revolutionizing and always changing. So it's always fun to follow the trends and see what people are doing and see what the new ideas are going to be. So this is a palette scraper, which is, I think people use for spackle, like when they're doing construction projects, but we use it as a cake leveler or cake icer so that we can just go around the sides of the cake and pull away any excess icing that's on the cake. And it gives us a nice, even level side. So you can see, this is just a nicely iced, simple, basic 7-inch cake. We've put an outer skim coat of icing on it, and we have a skim coat of vanilla buttercream on the top. Still, you can still see the crumbs here. But this cake, I'm going to show you how to make into the very trendy scraped naked cakes that people are ordering right now. So for this cake, we're just going to put a little bit more buttercream right on the top. And we're going to push it out to the sides. So we put clean buttercream on the top, even though there's still crumb coat buttercream on the sides. And so we're going to make this nice and smooth. My phone is ringing, so I'm going to let that go. We're just going to put a nice smooth, that's a nice smooth top. I'm going to go back around with our palette scraper. I'm going to take away this excess icing on the sides. I'm going to make this nice and smooth. And then we're going to go around one more time. And you can see that as I'm going around, I'm pulling icing away off of the cake. And what that's giving us is a beautiful naked cake palette. So what we can add to this are some fresh fruit. We can do strawberries, raspberries, we can do sugared cranberries, we can do just a few fresh flowers, and that will give us this beautiful naked cake palette. So you can see we just added some strawberries and some raspberries to this cake. We're going to give it a nice sprinkling of confectioner sugar. You could add a few edible pansies or other just rose petals. And this would be a beautifully presented, simple cake, scraped naked, with a nice smooth topping of buttercream on the top. And this would be a gorgeous presentation that anyone could make at home for a spring brunch or a spring baby, bridal, any kind of shower, or even a small wedding. So I wanted to just come back one more time and share another method of decorating a cake like this. You can see that we have put a second coat of icing on the skim coat that we had. We have a nice smooth top, and now we're going to create a texture design similar to the very rustic textures that are seen in so many wedding magazines and certainly on Pinterest and different Instagram and different social media sites, highlighting what the trends are right now for specialty cakes and weddings. And so just to be able to create this texture at home using tools that you may have in your own kitchen, we're using an offset spatula, which will give us the opportunity to dig into the icing, Or you could also use a fork, and you could just simply lay the fork on the edge of the board, and as you're turning your turntable, go around with the tines of the fork, and that will also create a texture design for you. But for this purpose, we're going to use our offset spatula. I'm going to lean it right up to the side of the cake and push right into the buttercream icing while I spin the cake on the turntable. And you can see that this method creates a very interesting texture design that is kind of a rustic, elegant design that is so popular right now. And all we're doing is pushing into the cake with our offset spatula while we spin the turntable, and we're lifting up as we get closer to the top, and we're done. And that gives us that beautiful, very rustic, very elegant texture. So to enhance this cake, I'm going to take a simple bag of pink buttercream with a beautiful star tip right at the top, and I'm going to stand up and pipe some beautiful pink rosettes on the top of this cake. And this gives us just a beautiful accent design to fill this cake in and have some gorgeous flowers on the top. And we can add a little bit more buttercream to this bag so that we can finish piping our rosettes. I'm going to add a little bit of white so it'll give us a little bit of a marble texture. And we'll fill in with some small rosettes. You can see we added some beautiful pink to the top of this, and we can take our gold dragées, gold sugars, and we can just sprinkle the center with some gold, and we have a gorgeous pink and gold design. And I know that all of these items are sold locally at grocery stores or at any of the specialty craft stores, so that you're able to find a lot of these products readily now, as opposed to having to purchase them in a cake decorating store. So you can see, again, this cake is another very simple design, but beautiful to use for a simple birthday party, simple shower, even a small wedding. This would be a great cake for a small wedding. And it's a very simple design. It did not take very long. So speaking of fun, thank you to the Connecticut Valley Education Foundation for including me in this video series. I hope you take the time to enjoy a special cake with family and friends. Happy Easter, happy spring, and hope to see you at the Baileyville Bake Shop. Have a wonderful evening.